my eye. Through the mist, my surprise shone light from distant northern skies. At that point, I realized I don't know where it comes from, but I know it's okay. If this is all an illusion, then I'm willing to play.
Welcome to the Quantum Guide Show, interviews with awakened masters as they share their quantum work with you. The Quantum Guide Show is produced by Karen Holton, creator of the 9 Steps to Quantum Health Transformation, a free 9-step online course to give you the tips and resources you need to thrive. Karen lost and continues to keep off 178 pounds of surplus body weight as she made her dreams come true. Whether you are awakening to the ascension process or simply want a wiser, more efficient lifestyle, this program is for you. No strings attached. The Quantum Guide Show is brought to you in part by Zendome's Orgonite, Karen's unique brand of orgone generators, ethically sourced, handmade, and double charged for maximum effect. Find out how orgone generators work and what they can do for you. Don't be fooled by imitations. Check out Karen's current selection, only available from her website, KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com, and on Facebook, facebook.com/Quantum Health Transformation. Enjoy the show.
Welcome back to the Quantum Guide Show. I am pleased to introduce you to imagination technologist and professor of passion, Jeremy Lasman. Jeremy is a former SpaceX technologist who worked with Elon Musk to reinvigorate the public's excitement for space travel again. He is a business graduate of Chapman University and creator of the groundbreaking comic book franchise Mania. Jeremy's soul work, Imagination Technology, provides a powerful platform to upgrade negative realities from survival to peace and thriving passion, which nourishes life on all levels. Applying his love of professional wrestling, Jeremy's energy and mission is larger than life. You can find him contributing his genius to pioneering ventures, inspiring from the stage, and creating in coffee shops from around the world. Jeremy, welcome to the Quantum Guide Show.
Thank you for having me. At the moment, I cannot go to coffee shops right now, so we're in the middle of this self-locking quarantine or whatever you call it, so that one's on pause. But yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
My pleasure. Today we're going to talk a little bit about career and passion. But first, I want us to get a little bit of background. And so I was wondering, how did you go from former SpaceX technologist who worked with Elon Musk to imagination technologist and professor of passion?
So I've always had a passion for technology, and that's what allowed me to get the opportunity at SpaceX, like right out of high school. And just love passion for technology, and being a fast learner. That's what they look for. And after I left SpaceX, there was I was given an opportunity to really explore myself and to go inward into the things at the time that I thought were broken about myself, or the things I didn't understand, and the things I felt were missing in my life. Like, I didn't feel like I was creative. I didn't feel like I had like artistic abilities, and I couldn't see that being a big picture dreamer was imaginative. That didn't connect with me. I was more of like this like engineer mind kind of thing with computers and all of that. And so I started to do more journaling, more meditation, more personal development, found more spirituality, and started to question my reality and inquire into the bigger picture concepts, and just all the way to the like, what is the meaning of life, kind of like purposeful questions that I didn't know, and was just opened up my curiosity. And then the pieces started to fall. The work started to present itself in the stream of journaling and just trying to make sense of my own mind. And I kind of look at it like I was the one that was hacking it, or taking a scalpel and like going up in there and like, what happens if I do this, and if I shift the perspective like this, what happens, and just being a scientist in that way. And it really opened up the creativity to become what you asked.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so at what point in your life did you realize that your imagination was actually technology? And how did that sort of open up and play out during your life?
So it was in my early to mid 20s was when that got connected, when the insights happened, because when I started to go into the journey of self-realization and that the spiritual journey, the inward journey that we're talking about, like I was aware and conscious that the interactivity between the body, the mind, spirit, and soul, the interactivity, the communication, the connection is metaphorical. And based off whatever era in civilization you are, the philosophers, the scientists, they're all utilizing the metaphors of their time to try to point the gurus, the whatever. They're using metaphors and stories to point at the truth. And being in this era of technological advancement and everything that means, for me, and this is not me trying to say what it is for everyone else, but for me, the technology metaphor is how I interact with my mind like a computer. And that helped me make sense, helped me connect the logic and the emotion so that I could feel more empowered instead of a victim of everything that was the noise, the anxieties, the stresses, like, barely being able to sit down for 5 minutes to meditate and close my eyes without getting all, ADHD on myself. But by understanding, okay, computer, logic, and if-then statements, and technology, and hardware, software, operating system, all of a sudden it gave me the metaphorical playground to understand, to have understanding, to have insight and awareness about what it is that I was helming as a machine, right? Like I say in how I got to it. If I were to go back to my 8-year-old self and give them a manual for how to use the imagination, that is what was the fuel for me early on in my personal development, was to come up with like what would have gave me relief from all the fears and the oversensitivities that I was feeling as an empath child, to be able to feel like, okay, this is the manual. Self-conscious, self-aware, positive, negative, how to get this awareness about all of those mechanics. So that's yeah.
So it's sort of, so you use the computer and the components of the computer as metaphors to relate to components of consciousness, I guess, and the
Precisely.
way of thinking, and then you were able to utilize that through those metaphors, and it helped you to build the structure of what you are teaching people today. Is that correct?
Yes, it helped empower my neuroses, my neurotic hypersensitivity, And I would say, yes, the structure is true, but also in the subtractive sense, how to get all of the structures away, how to remove and eliminate the philosophies that no longer serve, to get to that 0 point emptiness that, you know, is stigmatized from the physical perspective, like people hate or avoid the emptiness. But when you can look at it from the theory of like what is the natural state of the mind, is it's coming from nothing. And to understand that there really is no structure at the essence of things, but that you're building and playing with the structures like toys and tools.
And just to make sure I understand you correctly, so when oh my goodness, I just forgot what I was going to ask you. Better get back to my notes. I guess you're sort of getting to the point where you could tell us about the 3 theories, because I was really interested in your perspective. Because, okay, now I remember what I was going to say. So let me just back up a little bit. So, so basically, by applying this technology, you came to the point where you could discover your higher purpose and you could make sense of it. And then you discovered the 3 theories that provide a multidimensional approach to accessing our higher purpose. Can you get into that, elaborate on that for us, and get into a little bit of detail? Because it was very interesting when I learned that you were teaching that.
Yeah. So purpose and passion, like I know purpose is a really powerful term, but for me it's about passion, which gives into purpose, of course. But I use the fuel metaphor for this. When we're in survival, our fuel has fear in it. It has particulates of fear that dilute or diminish the performance of the fuel. And if you look at personal development and personal evolution and growth as the purification of the fuel as passion, then it really gives you a sense of like what is happening with the flow of imagination technology from the body, the mind, and the spirit. And so with the iSelf course that you're talking about, with the 3 theories, the multidimensional unlocking the multidimensional aspects of yourself, I do it in that systematic way in order to unmix what we've been conditioned to mix together, which is the body and the mind. And the way that I illustrate this very directly is you can see and interact with your mind. I can't see it. That means it's not in the 3rd dimension. It is not in the range of the 5 senses. It's in a different dimension, the 4th, where time is. And by first making that distinction between 3D and 4D, that's a mind blower for some people, because we've been taught to entangle them as body mind. And that just causes confusion. It is a limitation, because you're either really identified with yourself as the body, and that's your only, one-dimensional kind of look at physical reality, materialistic, or you're stuck in the mind and stress and anxiety, past and future, and stuck in that limitation, in that cage, prison cell, pretty much. And so I break it down in my course into 3D, 4D, and 5D. 3D, and I present them as theories because I go back to me being a really intellectual skeptic with like, how would I want to be presented and learn by myself? I don't want to be given the answers, because it's just the skeptic goes, I'm shutting that off.
So you want it internal. internal
Yes.
resources, not external. Mm-hmm.
Precisely. Yes, yes. So I present them as theories and hypotheses for them to test out and experiment to see if they're valid and true for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is the most effective and efficient way to accelerate transformation. So in 3D, we have the body, and the theory is the day one theory. With the hypothesis, the body doesn't exist in time. And so when you experiment with that, all of a sudden you're bringing all this time that you're carrying, all this past and future years, 30, 40, 50, whatever, how many years you're carrying, and looking at how thoughts carry time energy, and you're bringing that in closer to the present moment by experimenting and trying to prove this hypothesis. And that grounds the body into seeing without as much time, without as much inefficient time. Then with 4D, the theory being the blank slate theory, and like I was mentioning before, the hypothesis being the mind's natural state is empty.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that's counterintuitive. We think that the fullness is who I am. And so if you test out with this theory, then you're seeing, oh, everything that this is fullness, but the natural state is emptiness. And again, it clears away all the time that you're carrying so that you're getting closer and closer to the present moment or the 0 point. So
And
it's going,
sorry.
go ahead.
I was just going to say, basically it's the programming that we're born into, the construct. So from before we're even born, we're getting programmed. We get born in whatever culture that we're born into, family that we're into, we start getting programmed. And so we think our heads are supposed to be full. And yet, as with meditation, we come back to our natural state. Am I getting what you're telling us?
Yeah, spot on, exactly.
Wonderful.
And you're using programming, right? Like an operating
Mm-hmm.
system. That's
Mm-hmm.
exactly how I look at it. Yes, yes. So that goes from body to mind, 3D to 4D, and that corresponds, if we're looking at information technology, the 1 and the 0, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what data is binary bunches of ones and zeros.
Mm-hmm.
But as we shift from information technology to imagination technology, we're going into exactly what this show is about, quantum. This is how you understand the upgrade into quantum. It's upgrading from a binary duality based system, binary duality, ones and zeros, to quantum, which is either 1 or 0, both 1 or 0, or both in between. It's the superposition of all possibilities from that 0 point. So 5D, when we go from body, mind to quantum, we're going into the quantum self theory, which is that the imagination in its purest state is infinite potential, limitlessness. And this is the subtle distinction between the mind, a three-dimensional cube that is like a cell for your ego, and going around that infinitely, like an infinite cloud around that. So you imagine like that cube becomes like a speck, and you're going infinite possibilities around it. That's the distinction between the mind and the imagination. And so going through this helps you to get that greater perspective on your passion, to purify the passion, to get closer and more intimate with your truth and your purpose, like you said, and everything that comes from going more truth than illusion, and more into presence than person, like ego, presence versus that.
I'm understanding what you're saying is a bit like going from being a computer, which uses the binary code, and we live in pretty much a binary programmed system, to becoming supercomputers where everything is possible. And that seems to overlay into consciousness, which actually, for lack of a better term, is God, is everything. And
Yes.
so it's so exciting. In my own life, I've discovered some similar, not the same, but some similar concepts, and it helped me to become able to do things that are impossible. I just want to tell everybody, for those that
What I
don't
did.
know, I went from a 320-pound woman most of my adult life. I was overweight all my life. And then one day I decided that I could be different. And I used, so I don't want to make this all about me, but I just used my imagination as a technology and
Mm.
reinvented myself from the inside out. And that was back in around 2006. I lost 178 pounds, and I have more or less kept it off to this day. Now, sometimes I'm a little chubby and sometimes I'm a little bit thin, but basically I'm a normal, average person who does not have a weight problem or any weight issues, because I was able to use what you're talking about to recreate my body. So how do you feel about that? Do you feel that we can use the technology that you teach to actually make miraculous changes in the body and the mind and the soul?
I could not agree more. I mean, first of all, congratulations on you
Thank you.
empowering yourself. That is amazing. I love to hear that. But the answer is 100% yes. It's all an inner game. Like
Mhm.
it's all an inner game, and addressing the self-image. It's way. I mean, I, the rebel in me wants to say it's way more effective than like the brute force of exercise. Not to say, I'm not saying that
Oh no,
it doesn't
I would
work.
agree. I would
Yeah.
agree because I very little exercise. I don't,
Yes.
and I
Yeah.
don't, and I eat what makes me feel good. But and of course, I got rid of, some toxic elements in food like substances.
Yes.
But yeah, it's not even about. Basically, I had to learn to undo the programming, and it was all wrong for me. Now, maybe the programming of, calories in, calories out works for someone else. I don't know. But for me, it didn't work. Pretty much not much in the mainstream construct works for me. And so
Right.
I was basically, to survive, I started going within, and it really helps too to be over 50 and not care what people think about me. I got to tell you, people
Boom.
are amazing. They just want to pull us back into the mainstream, and they think they're really helping us and they really love us. And so getting free from so much, how do you address all the things that hold us back so that we can be free and create, well, for lack of a better word, miracles?
Yes. It always comes down to passion for me.
Hmm.
When the passion is the priority, and the allegiance to your truth is the undertone of that, and the passion has more value than this like survival in a sense. uh that's the answer, because then nothing has power over you. Nothing has power over you, and you feel the stability of your presence, because you know the stillness that is coming from, and so you're not swayable anymore, because the passion is a pure between you and the environment, because it's all you, but it's the communication between the body and spirit and soul, that's what gives you that clean link
Mhm.
to your empowerment, or as I put it in my my brand is superpowered. You get superpowered.
And would you say that's how we conquer the world?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I found that in my journey, the hardest part was to realize that I didn't have to do or become anything other than what I already am. I had to let go of that which I had taken on as being me that had nothing to do with me. It was other people's expectations, rules, morality, etc. And so it's difficult for people because it's really like jumping off a cliff with no parachute in the beginning. It's really huge risk taking. But you also said something that was cool about being a rebel. I think those of us who are rebellious, sensitive and rebellious, who actually are able to keep searching or keep knocking and keep finding. I mean, I'm using a whole variety of spiritual metaphors because I think they all mean the same thing, like what you said earlier. What is the very first step folks can take to start opening up and seeing who they are, who they really, really are, which, by the way, I think is always quite wonderful. I have just seen no bad surprises.
Yeah.
But what are the first steps?
Yeah. And the thing that came up when you mentioned rebel, because that's definitely a part of our DNA, it sounds like. But I would say that a healed rebel is a pioneer.
Yes.
Because the rebel can kind of take you down rabbit holes of resistance and things. But once you really empower it, it's that you're pioneers. We're here to reinvent and to create new systems and all of that magical stuff. So that I just wanted to make that, because that was a realization, recent realization. I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Like when I've healed the inner rebel that was, dissatisfied, it's actually because I'm a pioneer, here to reinvent shit. But to answer your question, well, beyond the shameless plug of doing my course, of course, but
please do. Please do.
is curiosity. Curiosity is that first step that opens up the portals to new possibilities, new choices. Curiosity is the most powerful mechanism that we have to do exactly what you asked, to just start to just shift things ever so slightly to give you that access port to a new reality and quantum leaps. And and the leaps of faith, are there to show you that you have the full creative control to write that narrative however you'd like. Because you can think a leap of faith is a drop into the Grand Canyon with instant death, or it's a leap of faith with a totally different gravity. Like, you can write that if you want, and you have the full narrative power to do it.
But if we don't take the leap, how are we going to know?
Exactly. The curiosity, got to be curious.
But we've been taught, like from an early age, curiosity killed the cat. Be careful. It reminds me of that show by M. Night Shyamalan, The Village, right? Don't go out of the village. Be careful of the monsters. You're going to be harmed if you stray. And even the whole mainstream is part of a technology or of the construct to bring us back and keep dragging us back. So I found it was a bit of a lonely place for quite a while until, of course, through YouTube, I started finding people like yourself. And I'm very excited about the work you're doing, Jeremy. Very excited. Please, I've been talking a little bit too much. Please go on about what you're offering. What are you bringing to the table for folks?
In the offering sense, like I was mentioning, my initial offer is that course. It is not a course that is here to add information to your life. You know, some people kind of get that stigma, the educational stigma, that a course is like, here I am gonna like, and some courses are like this, but definitely, but I distilled everything down. I synthesized everything down so that it is just the precise things that you need to hear, not to add information to your plate, but to show you how to subtract information off your plate. And so that is my introductory course to imagination technology, like how to like install or upgrade into it. And then that's self-guided. And if you want more support from me, there is also the iSelf trial, which is a group program where I go through the course with people and they get coached by me over the course of a month. And then if you want even more intimacy with me and you want to work with me on a personal level, then I have a imagination intensive, which is a month with me and you get one-on-one support. And it depends, you know, different people want more attention, or some are more you know, lone wolves and they like to do it themselves. And so the self-guide is there. So I've got those three options for the imagination technology and the iSelf course, iSelf training course, depending on what your investment and how much attention you want to, because that the more attention you get, the faster it goes, of course.
Oh yeah.
The more
yeah.
you invest, the faster it goes. And if we're talking about time and efficiency and shaving off the times it takes to go down those rabbit holes and do it yourself, you know, I spent maybe close to, if we count conscious time, maybe close to 10 years developing my work and going into the different silos of science and spirituality and philosophy and self-help and synthesizing all of that. And so that's why people hire me, is because they don't want the 8-year journey. They want to do it in a month. And that's really what we're talking about here, is the acceleration of transformation. And going quantum is going faster than the speed of light. And so it's quite the upgrade. But yeah.
Wonderful. Could you just say for us what each of the different levels, what's the course name now, and also mention your website. And of course, folks, all the links are going to be in the description box below, so you can find Jeremy easily. And he's got a lovely website. But could you just mention what the 3 levels or the 3 courses are, what they're called, so folks know what to go looking for when they visit you?
Beautiful. Yeah. So jeremylasman.com, and we'll have the link below. There is the iSelf training course. That is the 197 course. That one is the self-guided, and I offer, it is no risk. So if you go through it, you give it all your effort, and you don't think that you got the results, then I will give you your money back. So it's no risk to do that course. If you want group support, that's the iSelf trial, and that's 30 days and 3 calls with me. And then the imagination intensive is the one-on-one. You get a 90-minute call and 2 30-minute sessions over the course of 4 weeks. And that's the imagination intensive. Those are the 3 offers.
Wonderful. Now, we're having some unusual circumstances today, and people are pretty much stuck at home. So the first level, you mentioned, I think, that it was self-guided. So is that something folks could dig into while they have this opportunity, because they're not being distracted by going to work and doing their volunteer work and whatever else they're doing? Is that something they could tuck into now and make really, really good use of their time at home?
Yes, actually, you speak. That's so beautiful that you mentioned that, because all those, like, I'm too busy for personal development, or all those are gone right now. It's so funny. But yes, I would say now is the time, more time than ever, to dive into yourself. And what they'll get is 5 videos. They'll get an ebook, manual, and an outline for, you know, a suggested way of watching and reading it over the course of 21 days. But of course, it's self-guided, so you can binge them all if you want. But I suggest spacing them out, letting them simmer and percolate, because you're experimenting. It's not meant to just be consumptive information, right? Like,
It's not like the old school system where you're just getting information dumped in there. It's about self-exploration. So it would be a personal thing that people could do as they, however quickly they're comfortable with, to unfold and raise their awareness. And
yes,
I got to also say that when people are raising their awareness, they're raising their potential for holding frequency. And in my personal belief system, that is what's going to really emancipate humanity, the planet, the animals, the bugs, the trees, the leaves, all of it. And so I'm very, very excited about this program. Please do tell us more.
more. Well, so I mean, I guess I could go through some of the recent results that we've been having in the group.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
Yeah, we've had complete like healing and transformation of relationships. So like with parents and other like relationships, like complete 180s on what was like burdening them in the relationship. Those have been cleared. Chronic pain. A woman has had chronic pain for most of her life, and after going through the course, she was able to do a drive. This was before the quarantine. She was able to do a drive from California to Arizona with no lower back pain, and this was
Wow.
a chronic condition. A few of my clients have transcended certain mental illnesses around like anxiety disorder and bipolar. So those very really powerful results there. And just like that heightened creativity, inspiration, like those kind of intangible things, of course. And yeah, those are, I think, some really good tasters of the power of this, the efficiency of this.
I was going to say, let's give the folks some ideas of what they can do with this. Like, for instance, you mentioned physical healing, reduction in pain. You talked about mental healing. Could people also use this to increase their job satisfaction, their abundance? Let's talk about some of the other areas that people might not connect the dots that, gee, Jeremy could help me with this or with that.
Yes.
What other areas could you help people where they achieve their goals?
Yeah. So the big picture, because my genius is in the big picture, I design this as a general tool, if you want to look at it like that. And because it's based off quantum mechanics, it can be applied to anything. And so it's really like, this is why I think it's so elegant, and so, like, sophistication of the elegance is that it can be applied to anything. And that's what excites me as a scientist, is I get to keep trying with all these different things. Is the application, since it's around the purification of passion, it's however that expresses yourself in life, because pain is a representation of stuck energy, stuck passion. So if you clear that, then the pain goes away, of course. But in the terms of like more professional business things, money and abundance, it works the same way. So if there is a dissatisfaction with career or job or unfulfillment, and that is the intent for going through this course, where it's like, I want to solve this, I want to figure this out, or whatever that curiosity is, that is the problem or the pain point, if you want to use that, right? Like, you can take that in and apply the theories to it, and experiment with it and see what are the possibilities and the choices and the level ups that are available.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for example, one of my uh, clients was in a career that, like 10 plus years at a career that in the finance industry that she just hated, and it was just draining her energy, and
Mm-hmm.
you could just like feel the suffering within that, and the lack of creativity. And so working with her through that, seeing what the monsters were that were behind the golden handcuffs, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
the golden handcuffs is like, I'm getting paid so much to do this, and I can't leave this.
Mm-hmm.
That would be so dumb and irresponsible. But when you see the monsters that are actually the things that are the survival of that mindset, of that structure, the identity,
Mm-hmm.
and you go to the imagination technology to free yourself from that, all of a sudden now the leap of faith of, no, I'm quitting my job, I'm gonna do this, I like it, that's how it has to be done because I am free, and this is my passion, and I trust my passion,
Mm-hmm.
like that's the closest to the heart living and the aliveness that we can get. That means it's truth. um and so she was able to do that, and now she's a best-selling author on Amazon. She's coaching now. She's on stages. So that's just like an example. Like, it can be applied to anything that you feel is a limitation or obstruction, a wall that is in the way of your passion.
Mm-hmm. I have found that, at least in my own personal realm of being programmed, that I was taught to think of myself as being very small, very insignificant. Who am I to think that I could do this? Who am I to think that I could do that? And standing there with my hat in hand going, oh, thank you, thank you. It's just been such a trip to open up, to believe that something better is possible for me. And I've accomplished all kinds of things that I'm not going to take up the airtime with. But um, I got to also ask you, what role does patience play in all of this? Because
Mm,
that's one of the things that I was also had to learn, was a bit of patience, because I wanted everything right now, tomorrow. I wanted yesterday, and
mm.
there were steps in my evolution that I had to take to prepare me for the goal. So I just wondered if you could speak a bit to patience.
I love this question because I'm all about efficiency and speed.
Me
Um,
too.
so definitely, I resonate with what you're saying, and it draws my attention to slowing down is the way to speed up. That's the physics of this, is because the automatic unconscious operation runs at a frequency that where you're not conscious. And so you think that speed is the way it is. But when you actually slow down to your natural state, then you could actually experience quantum quantum speed type of things. And
Mm-hmm.
the way that I made peace with this, again, as a fellow speed freak, uh, is on a soul level, instant gratification, especially in this culture,
Mm-hmm.
feels like empowering, and it is, right? Like, especially now that we have technology to get more instant gratification with knowledge and wisdom and smart teachers and YouTube, and it's all
Mm-hmm.
at our fingertips, right? Instant gratification. But if that is out of balance with the natural state, the
Mm-hmm.
natural waves of the universe,
Mm-hmm.
then it's gonna cause stress and anxiety, because it's like, why isn't it here now? It's like, not, you get neurotic with it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can, on a soul level, understand why delayed gratification is so beautiful, it gives you access to see why you've designed, first of all, why you've incarnated into a physical reality,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like, I know it's cliche to say it's all about the journey, not the destination,
Mm-hmm.
but it does make sense, because the balance between instant gratification, if we had full instant gratification, that's being, fully spiritually light, just being able to snap our, like, that's not why we came here. We're at the edge of it, right? Like we're
Mm-hmm.
testing how far we want to go, and as a collective, are we really ready to have instant manifestations and be able to build forms out of with our hands, like, or be able to fly? Like, of course we're headed towards that in our evolution, but also we came here for the journey of a delayed gratification, of evolution, of like that the beauty and the deliciousness of the process, of
The
the journey, of,
transformation.
yes, of
Mm-hmm.
the mastery of the craft, which is so much more than just the destination or the creation. It's the experience of the creation.
Mm-hmm. What came to mind as you were speaking was, sometimes when I'm in a hurry to create something or manifest something, I get there and doesn't really feel like what I thought it was going to feel like. As the difference between that and letting things take their natural course. And I find that every step has infinite little steps on the way, which thank God makes it easier because I can tackle little steps. The big ones scare the hell out of me, so I just plan lots of little steps to get me where I'm going. But with delayed gratification, what happens is my goal comes into manifestation. Sometimes I'm so busy I don't realize, and that, whoa, it happened, and it feels so good. It just feels so good, and
Mm.
it's exactly right what we wanted. And I wanted to ask you, because that kind of ties into, in my world, um, I feel like universal consciousness, actually, once I reach out to it, it reaches into me. So say I give 10% because that's all I've got. There's this 90% that comes in, and I can't even explain how or why, and it's not like I'm so good and deserve it. What's your thoughts about that, Jeremy?
I When you said that, I go back to my year, like, hating school, uh, in the sense of, I was like, the label they gave me was gifted underachiever,
That
because,
sounds familiar.
right, right, because I hated it, and they knew that I had intelligence, and they knew that if I just applied myself, that I could probably get straight A's. But I was more about how could I do as little work as possible and just get by and have, please my parents, and do as little work as I need to, and read no books, and still be able to pass the tests and barely fly by. That excited me more. That was all about efficiency for me.
Mm-hmm.
That gave me more joy, to just get through the disdain that I had for school.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of where I went with when you asked that, is like, we're not here to overwork, and try. We're here to flow, but
Mm-hmm.
also to flow in a way that is action, and not just like floaty, but like
Mm-hmm.
laser precise zone of genius type of flowing, that is
Focus.
from the passion and the focus,
Mm-hmm.
the aliveness of that. That
Mm-hmm.
does not mean stress, overwork, overwhelm. And so that craft of, like, it is like, my zone of genius is where I'm doing no work and it's all play all the
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
And that precision of play and work, coming together, the oneness of that,
Mm-hmm.
that, oh, nothing sweeter than that flow state or peak performance or whatever you want to call that. But
Yeah.
that's where it's at.
Some people call it being in the vortex. Some people call it being in the zone. I'm very grateful that somehow I've created a reality environment where I get to work in the zone as much as I want to. And when I'm not in the zone, probably not a good time to work, then I need to meditate and self-care and take good care of myself to get back into that. But when I do, it just freaks me out sometimes when I see what I can accomplish. And all I was doing is playing and having fun, just playing
Yes.
and having fun. So for me, it was stripping off the adult and being the child that could just play. And I also have a kitty cat, and I always talk to her and tell her what I'm doing, and she's
Yeah.
my constant companion. And that's just like going back to being a kid. I had to somehow. What are your thoughts on that, Jeremy?
The the metaphor or the programming image imagination that I go, the visualization to draw this out, because it's the foundation for really the walls that get built, that we're taught to build, to grow up. So I noticed this, subconsciously, subliminally, sensitively growing up, that you go from being this child in full imagination, full play, really no identity, in a sense of like, maybe your name, but that structure hasn't been built yet, to, okay, we're segmenting off subjects into these different rooms, and they're kept separately. They're not allowed to mingle and play together. And then you're taught, okay, so here's make-believe. This is where you are as a child, as full make-believe, full delta wave make-believe. And now build this wall with all these bricks between make-believe and quote-unquote reality, and grow up and go towards reality and forget about this make-believe stuff of the child. And so coming back to that wall, destroying the wall between reality and make-believe, merging them into one, that's what you're talking about. That's the inner child and the full power of your imagination, your passion, getting to create and be instead of do.
I watch, I'm very fond of animals, and I notice that animals, they don't grow up. Like my cat is still a kitten no matter how old she gets. Animals are just so in touch with who they are. They don't actually take on a certain different role at a certain age. It's only humans. And I think as part of the mammal world, which I think we are, that we also have that option to stay kittens as we grow old. We can still be responsible. We can still, take care of ourselves, be good citizens, all the things that we need to do, to live in this three-dimensional society. But it's
The innocence.
interesting. Yeah, and as we get a little bit older and we go into that, it's really funny the names that society has for us to try to get us to be somehow ashamed of being childlike, the second childhood, that whole concept, right? But the beauty of being over 50 is, I'm actually 64 now, is I don't care what anyone thinks of me. The last thing I do is think about what other people think of me, because I'm just too busy having fun, really.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
Yeah, having fun. So, Jeremy, can you so this show is generally, well, it's for anybody, but this show is also, I think, important for people who are newly awakened, or people who are awakened and really isolated. And so they're kind of surrounded by family, neighbors, society, where they don't have even the freedom to talk the way we're talking today. I know that you recommend people visit your website, number one, right? They can glean a
Yeah.
lot right from that. But
Yeah.
what steps do you recommend in these kind of odd the odd social reality we're now finding ourselves in with, the virus and stuff. What steps do you, I know curiosity is really important, go into your website. What steps can people take so that they can start planning some relief and planning some freedom and planning how to bring more of what they really want into their lives?
Well, I would say, get clear on what that actually means. Sometimes we can say that and be in the intellectual fantasy of, oh, if only, and let's plan and plan and plan and not
Mm-hmm.
actually execute on it. But really, it's like spending time with yourself, which you have an opportune time now
Mm-hmm.
in isolation, giving yourself that time to just be without trying to fill it,
Mm-hmm.
and then maybe just sit with a pen and a blank piece of paper and see what wants to come out
Mm-hmm.
with no rules, no
Mm-hmm.
bounds, and just let that pen happen. Maybe give yourself that question of like, but what I just asked, like, what does that life look like? How is it different? This is all part of the curiosity, but it just giving yourself that opportunity to just listen to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then the other thing is vulnerability, allowing yourself to be vulnerable in the bounds of that you feel safe, of course. Like, don't
Mm-hmm.
force yourself, but there are so many virtual options nowadays, especially with Facebook and Facebook groups, where if you just do a search for that specific thing that you're feeling, you
Mm-hmm.
know, I'm like loneliness or fear, or I'm doubting myself, or I don't know what to do. You can find a Facebook group that's private that has, just a few hundred people or whatever, that makes you feel like you could be vulnerable and you could just share what you're experiencing and just feel that you're going to get some people that are going to support you and just
Mm-hmm.
hear you and see you, and just feeling seen, and it's seeing yourself really,
Mm-hmm.
and feeling listened to, and listening to yourself. That'll start to shake up the cobwebs of getting out of the victimized, like, I'm so victimized by my
Mm-hmm.
circumstances, to, okay, how can I create new? How can I get fresh energy going?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like discovering ourselves. In sociology, we learned that we tend to see ourselves as we're mirrored back from other people, and that's not always complimentary, but to
Mm-hmm.
find that true essence of who we really are is, yeah, I would agree that's a really, really good starting point. And also, I didn't ask you before, but I'm assuming that you are fully available through social media or even through Skype, or people don't have to sit down with you physically face to face. You are
No,
able
no.
to reach out into anywhere in the world and assist people with their journey.
Yeah, virtual, worldwide, international
Mm-hmm.
clients from Switzerland.
Fantastic.
Yeah. It's thank you for the internet and this new consciousness. Like, it can all be virtual. And
Mm-hmm.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
I'm on Facebook is probably the best way to reach out to me. I'm on Instagram as well, or through my website. There's an email on there.
Yeah, I've got your Facebook, your Instagram, and your website and your email, all for the links, below. Sorry.
Yes, yes.
So we're getting close to the end. I'm wanting to know, what are you up to? Do you have any speaking engagements? Are you just working on your video? What are you up to in the next little
So
while?
right now it's like kind of weird to plan any travel because of the everything that's going on. But no, nothing on the books with upcoming. Right now, my focus is in a few different businesses. some startups that I'm currently advising in a big picture role. And so, yeah, right now, most of my time is devoted to supporting some pioneering startups or disruptive startups, and then also supporting my group and the people that enter my container.
Really wonderful. So in closing, what's your message? Anything you want to say to inspire people? This is your moment.
I love the quote from Muji, a spiritual teacher I listen to on YouTube, because it really encompasses the work that we do on ourselves in such a clear way, and that's that the fires, and this is, I'm kind of like, I added a little bit of my spin to it, but I have to give him the credit for it. But the fires, the fire of our passions, the fires of self-realization that sometimes feel like they're burning everything about ourselves and burning everything that we thought was our sense of self away. We feel that the grieving and all the tough things that happen when those fires are at their hottest of transformation. Though that fire can only burn away the false, the lies, and the illusions. It cannot burn away the truth of what we are. And
wonderful.
That when you grasp that, you are invincible, you are unstoppable, and it is the root of your empowerment, because it's only burning away what you're not. Fire.
It can't touch your authentic self.
Exactly.
Nothing can touch your authentic self.
Yes.
In life or in death.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And yeah, that because the more into your self-discovery and into transformation, evolution you go, the hotter that fire gets. And the more it shakes the body, literally.
It sure does.
And if you can really come to that, like, it's only burning away what I'm not, you have all the ammunition you need to get through anything.
That's fantastic advice. That is fantastic. It's sure been a pleasure to spend a bit of time with you. I hope maybe I could have you back one day for another show.
Yes, just flew by today.
It sure did. Keep me posted on what's going on for you, and I'm just absolutely thrilled to have you on the show. It's a huge privilege. Thank you so much, Jeremy, for being here.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity, Karen. It was such a wonderful time. Thank you.
Well, you're very welcome.
Thank you for joining us for the Quantum Guide Show. Become the change you wish to see in the world. Subscribe to Karen's YouTube channel, click the like button, and share this show with your friends. Check out Karen's website at KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com. All the links are available in the description box below. Until the next time, keep up the good work.
Surrendering to endlessness puts all my inner strife to rest. For time gives birth to hurriedness. It all makes sense, well, more or less, and the sages put me to their test. With heart and soul I do my best to find the answers to my quest. I wonder and I must confess, I don't know where it comes from, but I know it's okay. This is all an illusion, and I'm willing to play. yeah.